here's Lucas from viaRussian, and I have a very cool and relevant topic for you. How to learn Russian vocabulary. Why is it so important? I mean, it's straightforward. If you want to learn a new language, it does not need to be Russian. You need to memorize vocabulary. But especially when it comes to Russian, I often hear that it is so difficult to memorize the Russian words. I know it's difficult, especially for people from Western Europe and from America, because Russian sounds very foreign for us. So if your native language is not the Slavic language, then it can be challenging. So it is a very important topic. I will now give you a detailed list, or let's say process advice. I give you step by step how you effectively and efficiently learn Russian vocabulary. The first one, it is which vocabulary should you learn? Don't neglect this point. That's very important because many people, and I was one of them, I also learned non-relevant vocabulary. So just random words. And this can happen to you if you, for example, just use apps or just do grammar exercises and so on. For example, when I learned Russian, I also used a book. And at the beginning, I wanted to translate every single word. So very often I tried to learn random words that I actually have never used again in my life. So these vocabulary have not been relevant for me. So it is very important, if you want to learn to speak Russian fast, that you should focus on the words that are relevant for you, for your personal life. Maybe you are interested in sports or music or arts. Then you should learn these words because you will use them very often. So don't learn random words. Don't learn words from grammar exercises, from books, or from language apps. Because we don't know, and you don't know, if they are really then useful for you in the future. Okay, and now the big question. How do you find the relevant words? Actually, it's very easy. You must practice with a Russian native speaker. You must have conversations. Because when you have conversations, this is actually what you want to achieve at the end, to have conversations, and there you will also find your relevant words. So if you have a conversation with a person and then you don't know how to formulate the sentence you want to formulate, or the other person tells you something and you don't understand the sentence, then you know, oh, these words now are relevant. These words I should learn. And this brings me to the second point. You had already, or you have, your conversation and you realize or find out the relevant words. But now you need to document them. Because if you just try to pick them up like passively, it's also an option what many people do. Maybe it works for a few people, but in general I can tell you from my experience and the experience from many students, if you just try to pick them up passively, it means you don't write them down, you don't repeat them, you just hope that after hearing a word for several times you remember this word. It's very difficult, especially with Russian, as I said in the beginning, if it's not a familiar language for you. So it means you need to write them down. Or actually better, you need to ask your conversation partner to write this word, the relevant word, down. Why? Because especially when you're a beginner, it will be very difficult to write it down in Russian. So just imagine you hear a very difficult word and then you want to write it down. And if you're a beginner, this is very difficult to document a very complicated new Russian word. And that's the reason why you should ask your conversation partner. It could be a friend, a random person, or a tutor or a teacher. But he or she should write down for you. And now we have two opportunities or two situations. The first one is, remember, right now we're having a conversation and you have this conversation in real life. Then you can ask the other person to write it down in a little book that you carry with you. This is what I did when I was in Russia. I always had this little book with me. And when I had a conversation with someone and then I encountered a new word, a relevant one that I didn't know, but I thought like, oh, I need this for my personal life or in my personal life, then I asked the other person, please, can you write it down in this book? Here, you can now see it. I have here a list of vocabulary. Or you can also use your smartphone, whatever you want. But give it to the other person and ask friendly, please, can you write it down? The second situation, you have the conversation online with a language exchange partner, a tutor or a teacher. Also ask, and the tutors usually do that automatically because it's their job, they want to help you. They write it in the chat. Or even better, this is what we do at viaRussian, we use a shared document. Because in the shared document, you can see it at the same time and when the tutor writes, and you already have your list after the lesson. Some people prefer the chat function because they argue then they use the vocabulary even more often because they need to transfer it from the chat to their vocabulary list. I don't do it. For me, it's not that relevant and I would just copy paste it anyway, and this is not real practice. So I prefer a shared document. Okay, now you have finished your conversation and you have your vocabulary list. And now we are coming to the third point. You have your list after the conversation. So when it was a real life conversation, let's say you arrive at home after an online conversation or a lesson, then you do it immediately after the lesson. You now take a look at this vocabulary list or at your book, at your smartphone, wherever you have documented the vocabulary. And now it's getting interesting. You choose the 5 most relevant words from this list and add it to a flashcard app or tool. If you have liked the video so far, please subscribe to our channel and give us a like, so you can help us to reach more people and learn Russian effectively and efficiently together as a strong community. So why only 5 words? The reason is that when you use a spaced repetition app or tool, that there are also older words. So the new ones, you just add them, but you will practice the new words combined with also older words and it adds up. And this means you could have a lot of words each day in your flashcard deck when you open it. And that's the reason why I recommend, if you are not learning Russian full time, that you maximum, I just add, I guess, like 2 new words each day, or not even each day. So, but what's the problem if there are too many words in the flashcard app in your deck? This brings me to the 4th point. And it is when you actually repeat the words in your flashcard app. Now let's do a little recap. So you had your natural conversation and you figured out your relevant words after the conversation or during the conversation. Then your conversation partner helped you to document the words. After the conversation, you added them to your flashcard app. And now, this should be now the next day after the conversation, because you don't want to repeat the words immediately after conversation. Give yourself a small break. So the next day, you open your flashcard app and you see 10 to 15 highly significant words. And now the question is, how can you repeat them in a high quality way? So what do I mean with high quality? That you don't waste your time, and when you then want to use the word, you have forgotten it, that you really remember it after repeating and practicing vocabulary. And the first point of this step, and maybe the most important one, is to put the word in context when you repeat it. So don't just translate it. So don't just do like, if you see the word like person or human. Don't just say человек and then you continue and you do the next and the next, because that's not high quality. Probably you could do this in 5 minutes, but this is not effective because you will not remember this word, and this is your goal. So what does it mean to put it in context? Try to create a sentence with the word. Maybe you can even tell yourself a story, but just engage. For example, let's take again the word person, human. So I see it, and then I would say something like "Я общаюсь с человеком." Okay, and I do this with the next word, and sometimes I even create more sentences because I tell a story. So personally, when I have like 10 to 15 words, I need 30 minutes. And of course, if you now have more time than 30 minutes, then you could add more. Okay, and now let's really talk about the details. Now you know, when you repeat the words, you put them in context, but you can even add more, let's say, more details to your practice. And it is, try out different learning styles. So I don't want to get too deep into learning styles because I am not a scientist, but I just take now a model that explains 4 general learning styles. And it is visual, auditory, reading and writing, and kinesthetic. Probably you have used them, but maybe only 1 or 2. And now the goal is really to try it out and also try out different learning styles. So what is the visual one? There are of course many ways to actually execute this learning style, but I just give you now an easy example. You could visualize the vocabulary. So if you again see the word like person, human, человек, you imagine a person. You really try to imagine someone, really draw a picture in your head. That's a visual learning style. The next one, auditory. This one is very useful, I think. But of course it's difficult to listen to someone when you practice it. At viaRussian it's possible because our students have the opportunities to write down their own story with relevant vocabulary, their own vocabulary, then send it to a tutor, and the tutor records an audio file of this individual story, and so the student can listen to his own story. Of course, this is not possible for everyone, but what you can do, and I also do this, I really like it. It is talking to yourself. So speak it out loud when you see a word and formulate your sentences, your stories really out loud, because then you also hear it and it's also auditory. Then the third one, it is reading and writing. Personally, it's not my favorite one, but maybe it is yours. And this is what I mean with we have individual learning styles. So try it out. So you don't only create and formulate a sentence by speaking, you could also write the word down. Maybe it helps, but the most important thing is to try it out if you don't know that this learning style is suitable for you. And the last one is maybe not a common one, but I really like it. It's the kinesthetic one. So you try to experience the vocabulary. What I do, I very often get up and I walk around and try to do a little role play. So I really imagine talking with someone and doing gestures and using facial expressions and so on. Again, the bottom line is there are different learning styles. We prefer different ones. So you need to try it out, and maybe, or you should, I'm sure you should mix them up, because most of us have or prefer several learning styles and not just one. Maybe one is more salient for you, but it does not mean that you cannot use also the other ones. Okay, this is it. Now you got really a detailed step-by-step process from the beginning, from the conversation, finding the relevant words, to the end, how to really do high quality repetition in a flashcard app. So now you know everything, and the last point is now the most important one, and it is consistency. So don't do this once a year. really try to do it every day or every second day, but you need to be consistent. That's very important. I hope you liked the video, and please subscribe to our channel if you haven't done so, and give us a like, because now I can see that our community is growing and I want that you also become a part of it, and we together learn to speak Russian effectively and efficiently. See you next time.